I'm really pleased to be joined on not the Andrew Marr show by Yael Khan, who's all the way out there in Islington. How are you doing, Yael?
Thank you very much.
Good to see you. Now you've made a lot of news on, especially on social media. One of the clips has been seen. I saw 4 million times, and I'm going to play this clip that has been already seen 4 million times. I'm sure anyone watching it has already seen it 3 million times each. So I'll just play this clip of Yael.
We unfortunately can't even find Israelis who defend Palestinians in that way. So no, we're not a better, we're actually worse.
The sign needs to come off.
The sign is not coming off. You can arrest me. The sign is not coming off because that is the truth.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do
no,
it.
No, it's not coming off. And it doesn't need to be.
Somebody has never met this woman. My husband, my friend's husband is Jewish. This woman is Jewish. This woman's family died in the Nazi Holocaust. This woman's family died in the Nazi Holocaust.
Obviously, the public and the common law have the right to peaceful protest, but that could incite hate towards a specific community.
That is not hate. That is the hate to protect the Israeli extermination of Gaza. And you know what is hate? Is to assume that Jews supporting it. That is hate. That is anti-Semitic for you to even imply that Jews support this Holocaust which is happening as we speak in Gaza.
That's the truth.
At the moment, it is 1:51 in the afternoon. I'm arresting you on sexual changes.
No, shame on you. Shame on you. Don't do this. Don't do this. Don't do this.
So I mean that's pretty dramatic and shocking, really, to watch. Can you tell me what actually happened? Were you arrested?
Yes, I was arrested. I immediately went on hunger strike. And after 24 hours, I was released without charges. And I took the same very sign, I put them again on my body and stood outside this very same police station where they had me for 24 hours. They obviously, when they handcuffed me, they twisted my arm, which exacerbated an injury that I already sustained by somebody who seemed to be supporting the Israeli genocide of Gaza.
So you were in for 24 hours. Wow.
Yes.
Have you been in a prison or police station before like that?
No.
Never. Well, it must have been quite disturbing to be there then.
No, all I was thinking that here is it. I'm wasting my time and not being able to campaign against the slaughter of Gaza. And also I was preparing already my defense because I was going to defend myself in person. So I was already preparing my defense.
And they took your sign away, but then they gave it back when you had to leave.
Yes, they took. I had 3 signs. And they took all 3 as evidence against me, and they returned them to me when I was released. Right.
And obviously, we're keen. I can see the top line of the sign, but can you show us what the whole sign says? So it says, Nazi Israel, where I was born, wants you to be complicit in its final solution to Gaza. Terrorist state of Israel now demands the international community finance and support the expulsion of 2.4 million Palestinians into Sinai Desert, where they will be slowly exterminated like my family was by Nazi Germany. Wow.
And also this sign, I had this sign, I had it on my back, which I'm sure the police also saw, and that's the other sign that they confiscated and then gave it to me, back to me when I was released, and I put it back on.
Right. Stop using anti-Semitism to enable Israel to genocide Gaza. Stop using the Holocaust, which exterminated my family, to enable Israel to exterminate 2.4 million Palestinians in Gaza. We Israelis live on the land stolen from the Palestinians by Zionist terrorism. I mean, those are strong, very strong words. And you were accused of sort of inciting hatred. I mean, you were very strong in saying that the anti-Semitism was coming from people who assumed that Jews support what Israel's doing.
The police. I was accusing the police. I was directly accusing the police that the very claim that this sign is anti-Semitic, that it is actually anti-Semitic to make that claim, because it's when they accuse me that this is against Jews, that assert that Jews are supporting the Holocaust in Gaza. No. Some, like every community, but Jews, there are Jews like myself and other people who totally against this Holocaust in Gaza.
So no, I'm very interested to hear. I mean, it says on the sign, obviously, you were born in Israel. So, I mean, how did you come to see that this was the case about Israel? I mean, when you were brought up, you must have been instilled with pride about Israel and national pride of some kind. What was it that made you see what you've come to see?
Well, I was subjected to the same brainwashing like all the other Israelis, but I did sense that there was something wrong and hidden, and I just didn't know where to look for it. And I was very lucky when I was actively searching to understand what. I just felt there was something in the background, and I knew it was nothing to do me personally or my or my family. So I was actively looking for it, and luckily people gave me a book which was written by a Palestinian in Hebrew, which didn't have any narrative but just had snippets of action by the Israeli military, where they massacred Palestinians, basically about the Nakba and the military rule that followed after the Nakba. And I read it back to back within a night, and in the morning I was an anti-Zionist, because I realized that my whole life, everything about my life was at the expense of other people who've been expelled from their homeland, and that my life was still benefiting from them having everything that they had taken away from them.
And what I mean, to come to that conclusion, as you say, it's very interesting. You read it in a night, and then you totally transformed. I mean, how did that change your relationship with, say, your family and your friends and all the people you knew? I mean, when you saw this, did you try to convince them, and what was their response to it?
Yes, of course. I thought everybody would react like I did. So I did confront my friends. I had plenty of friends. And the responses were, so what if I'm a racist? I was so shocked. I still have the vivid memory of a particular incident where we were going downstairs in a building, while this friend, she was shouting to me, so what if I'm racist? And it didn't work out very well with my own family either. My father called me a terrorist, and we had a shout for some years, and I kept telling him that Israel was not satisfied with occupying the land that it already occupied in the early 70s, because we're talking about I became anti-Zionist in November 1972. And so I said to my parents that Israel also intending to occupy Lebanon. So when in 1982, Israel invaded Lebanon with maps with Hebrew names of Lebanese cities and towns. My father was absolutely outraged, and he completely changed. And since then, he was my biggest supporter.
Well, that's good to know. But obviously, you felt a bit on your own for quite a while with this knowledge that you had. And you know, what about?
Ex said, it's better to walk on your own than walk with a crowd against in the wrong direction. So yeah, I never ever reconsidered my position, because for me, as a child, I was always grew up about the Holocaust. So I was always thinking about those few German who risked their life, paid with their life to save Jews. And so I was always, as a child, was wondering if I would have that courage. And for me, at the moment when I found about the Nakba, the answer was, that was my time to take a stance. So it's never ever, even for a brief second, I ever thought that any price which I paid, and I paid dearly, I had death threats, etc., etc. I never ever thought anything but following that path.
And I'm assuming you can't go back to Israel, or is that, are you allowed to back into Israel? Would you be in trouble if you got there?
They made it very clear when I came last time to say farewell to my dad, who one of the reasons he died early, he was heartbroken to see how the Israeli were mistreating Palestinian. So he died in 2002. I was there just for hours, and he died, and we buried him. And even though they promised my solicitor they had no case against me, they did still try to arrest me. They actually arrested me, and but another lawyer got me released. And I got the message very clear that if they said they were going to take me to a notorious police station in Petah Tikva, which is known to be torturing. And I had already been threatened with tortures by Israeli commandos in Gaza Strip. So I know that I cannot go back. And
so
now,
you're exiled?
Yes, I am exiled.
Wow. And do you have family obviously in Israel then still?
Most of the families, like there were some relative who came to my father's funeral who I don't know. And when we mentioned that he supported Palestinian, they disrespectfully turned their back to his body while he was still in open grave. So no, I don't want to know those families. They are, I'm sure many of them are illegal settlers, and most of them are religious and possibly related to those rabbi who write. There's one rabbi wrote that it was permissible to rape women during war. There's other rabbis who wrote that it's okay to murder Palestinian. They didn't say Palestinian, but it's implicit Palestinian babies or any child, so of any age. So I'm sure that's where they are, because those relatives of mine that I saw at my father's funeral were religious. I'm not.
So this issue of Palestine and Israel's treatment of people in Palestine has been almost like a lifelong campaign for you then, really?
Yes, indeed. Yeah. I once was offered a really lucrative job, and then they asked me, how do we know, going to suddenly drop everything for campaigning? And I gave them the honest answer, yeah, I don't know. So they didn't give me the job.
Oh, wow. So that's incredible. So, and what do you, I mean, what's happening in Gaza at the moment is we're seeing carpet bombing of people, of civilians there. Is this something that you predicted that would happen?
Yes, I did manage to get to Gaza, after the last time I was in Israel, I was there. I managed to get to Egypt. It was in January 2008 when the Palestinian, in amazing engineering success, they knocked down the wall, that 8 meters steel wall and concrete that Israel built to separate Gaza from Egypt. And so I quickly, I quickly flew to Egypt, not having no idea how to get from Cairo to Gaza, to be honest, because I never actually imagined doing that route. And I met Palestinian people who I knew from Rafah. Just actually, as soon as I was just standing on top of this 8-meter steel wall, which was which on the ground, somebody was already called my name, so somebody already recognized me. But after 3 days being there, I was like thinking, what is the Israeli plan? And it hit me that the only Israeli plan was to exterminate, annihilate Gaza. And ever since, I just live with this every minute of my life, being really in extreme fear. And so I was not surprised what is happening now. And I believe that Israel will not stop before at least 100,000 Palestinians are dead. I think lots of Palestinians will die. There is no, people are unable to sleep. They are bombed every night, so they can't sleep. So there is exhaustion. There is no water. There's no water even to clean themselves. There are people with injuries. There is no way to treat them. There is no way to clean them properly. The injuries are horrific, burned with chemical burning of their bodies. It's horrendous. And there is no food. And they keep being bombed. And the diseases already spreading, and there will be more diseases spreading, because there is no possibility for any hygienic, any personal hygiene, let alone that all the water is contaminated, and there is sewage everywhere. People have to resort to drink seawater, which is really will destroy their kidneys, but the water is so contaminated. And so, yeah, I don't think there will be less. And indeed, the Israeli ambassador Tzipi Hotvili to London did normalize that, yeah, possible that 600,000 Palestinians will die. As far as she's concerned, sounds like it's a reasonable genocide. So yeah. I'm not very.
And you still, I guess you still have friends in Gaza as well. When you went over there in 2008, so have you made contact with any of them?
Well, there was an artist, Rabbi Meir Kahane, who only a few months ago I sent her money to pay for the cost of art material, because she was doing art classes for children, and I noticed already this summer, the children look so traumatized, worse than any other year, and they look already malnourished, and this is before this genocidal attack. And I can't get, I can't hear, I haven't heard any word that she's alive. I'm really worried for her and her family. Another artist, I was in contact with Zakut. She, on the 13th of October, she already with her entire family were exterminated by Israeli bombs. Yeah, that's a situation in Gaza. Israel, as you know, and that's why I was holding this sign about anti-Semitism, use the anti-Semitism to silence people. Well, in the Israeli government, there is Ben-Gvir, whose background is the Kahane, a group which is now, which was outlawed a few years ago and declared as terrorist organization in the US after the massacre by one of their members, Baruch Goldstein. This Kahane used to attack us when we, at the first Intifada, the first uprising in 1988, spring 1988, we used to have a Friday, every Friday, a weekly protest against the Israeli oppression of the uprising in Dizengoff Circus, which is the center of Tel Aviv. And when my father came to visit me in Tel Aviv, because he was living in the Haifa area, he joined us to this protest, and he was subjected to anti-Semitic attack. He was told by this Kach that shame the Nazis didn't finish you off. This is a man in the Israeli government. They don't care about anti-Semitism at all. They're happy with anti-Semitism. They only cynically use it to shout down anybody who criticizes Israel. And indeed today, as a response to that video that you showed of me being arrested, there was a reply on Twitter that my family, who were exterminated by the Nazis in the Holocaust, that they were couples. That is anti-Semitic attack on people who actually were annihilated by the Nazis. That's where we stand. So I really hope people will not allow this fake claim of anti-Semitism when we really facing a Holocaust in Gaza, because it is important to fight any anti-racism. And the reason why the anti-Semitism was rightly highlighted only in the context of to stop another Holocaust. But now we're actually facing a Holocaust by Israel against Palestinians. And that should be the focus. The focus should be to stop that Holocaust. Thank you.